So we are just greeting each other once again. Hello. And we're gonna look today or in that series that is called our beginning of restoring. Well, the series is called Communicating Towards the Answer. We are relying on the answer of the Holy Spirit, of our higher mind. And we're gonna start out with our new beginning of restoring communication. And the series invites us to join us in the purpose of looking at personal and transformational questions, which we are willing to bring to an answer capitalized that lets us feel connected to the truth. The truth will always reveal itself in our remembrance of a new communication with Christ consciousness within our own mind and being. And it is something that we really can feel when the answer is there. And so we will present each other, Erica Cameron and myself, questions and reflect the answer until clarity is restored, peace experienced, and thoughts and ideas which are part of the meaningless human conceptual mind will vanish and give space for this true communication in the demonstration of the Holy Spirit's reasonability for all of us. So our own experience will give testimony of these miraculous changes. And everybody in the room is welcome who comes and goes to comment or present their thoughts during the session via the chat function. So I invite you first, Erica and Cam, to speak or give us also some words of introduction and what you are having in your mind right away, right now. Okay, so you have to turn on your microphone again, Erica.
Mic is on.
No, it wasn't.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
There we
Thank
go.
you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm hard to find the words, but I was looking for, I reached out to you, Devavan, for support in my experience of feeling really big openings and connection, and all the while feeling a heaviness, lingering type of sadness or pain about how life appears to be, a pain in my day-to-day activities, while all the while experiencing more and more opening. And I wanted to have a look at that and feel supported in that, and how that could shift more to my experience being that of one of ease and joy more and more constantly. Not a marked difference between the light and the openings and my necessary activities in space-time, but all of it feeling that flow, that joy, that happiness. Does that convey? I was looking for support in that, in a really practical way, where it's like, I notice the change, it's tangible. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Cameron?
A lot of what I have been experiencing is very new, and Erica has been very supportive and pushing me to grow and to see this space of higher support. And it has been difficult because so much of what I have made does not want that. And so there's been a lot of there's been a lot of upset in finding this space of support, and then being able to see through it and understand the true reality of oneself. And that's been really hard, but I'm ready. And so it's been highly supported, heavily supported. And Erica is not a slow paced supporter. So I kind of am there, not being able to fight back much. Right. And so I've been learning an enormous amount in a short amount of time. Thank you, because of her and her experiences, and through all of you supporting her. And so I'm just grateful, all of it. Even through the shit of it, I'm very grateful for it.
Thank you. Yeah, that I think we can feel that now. And of course, what we are talking about right away is about true or restoring true communication, because everything clarifies when communication with the higher self, communication with God is restored. And so all problems that we get into our mind and of course want to expose for receiving a reflection so that a change of perspective and a change of perception can occur, uh, ultimately only depends on how we, in our own mind, restore communication with our true self, with God's self, because that's the only communication there really is. And if I communicate with my mind, within my mind, with my source, then I can communicate also with my brother, and there will not be anything missing. So we will always come back literally to um, the choice that we make communicating within our own selves. And maybe at the beginning, I would like to introduce this uncompromising teaching of Jesus Christ, our own Christ mind, Christ consciousness, who lets us know that we are not communicating here. and, and that's that's a kind of a huge awakening, because we think when we talk to each other and we understand something conceptually that we would communicate, and he says that we are not communicating in truth with that. And he even goes that far that he says you communicate with no one, and you are as isolated from reality as if you were alone in all the universe. And of course, that is being felt and sensed as a sense of constriction in the consciousness, or there's something missing, or there is like a wall or an obstacle in the communication, or in the sharing, in the extension. And so it needs first always my admission that if I think I communicate here with words and between bodies, I'm actually insane. And he calls it by that word, he calls it madness. And he does say that in my madness, in that madness, you overlook reality completely. I overlook then what has been truly given me as I am created in the perfection of God. And so when we actually look at problems and bring them to an answer, we open up our minds again to restore not reality as a perceptual reality that has been projected out there and kept like an image outside ourselves, but we're bringing it back into our mind and see what is literally left when we involve the Holy Spirit, when we include the Holy Spirit to give us the answer or to undo, to correct what the personal perception is. So that would be like my starting point. And from here we could go already in certain specifics.
So as you're sharing, Devavan, of course, I'm like, yeah, true. But wait, I'm talking to people here. And then there's like a feeling of, well, how do I figure it out? How can I be here and be actually in communication and get it all done and talk to people and homeschool my kids? How do I do it? There's like a place where I'm wanting to figure it out. Like I can be in the light and be happy and receiving it and in the acknowledgement, but then when we shut off the video and I go to move in seemingly space-time, it often feels like that gets lost until the next time I pause to find it again. And that's what I'm interested in. Like, where does it start to come that there's no longer this disconnect? There's a difference. Do you follow what I'm saying?
That will always be a miracle. Yeah?
Yeah.
It will always be a miracle when it stays in the alignment and the alignment is experienced as consistent. And indeed, about that, now no one of us is in control or I can choose, I want that above all else, a consistency in the experience. But I
Yeah.
will still only find myself. I will find exactly how I hold it in my mind as a reality. And I will get the result of that. I will experience it exactly as I have it in my mind. If I if I choose uh, a separation thought, a fear thought, a thought of guilt, that will give me a feeling of, okay, now I was just connected a moment ago, now I'm disconnected again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as I already said, if I choose, it's a choice. And that is also why the mind training, I mean, we all are familiar or have at least had a look at the Course in Miracles, and that is just one form of a mind training which I trust. And but that is what a mind training facilitates. A mind training facilitates that I actually discover my thoughts of littleness, of disconnection, of what I choose as my reality. And then I wonder, why do I feel disconnected? No? But the mind training will show me, hey, look, here is a concept, here's a meaning of thoughts, and that is why the result is why you feel disconnected. I would also add on, which I think is very important in our transformation, that I, I always have to remember that I cannot make it. Ne? Uh, I'm literally the denial of it, ne? From with my answers from the past, ne? That I would project or apply, as a solution. I can only go along and open my mind towards a new being shown that, okay, it is consistent or it is flowing or there is the recognition. I can never lose that. There's a presence in that mind, and there's the consciousness goes always back to that presence that we call God or light or whatever. But I cannot make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
All attempts to try to make it happen are the attempts of making effort and other attempts to literally play God, play God and be in charge of uh, of the of the presence of God, let's say. But the presence of God is how we were created. I am already dead. So that's also reasonably thinking. The reason why I cannot make it, I'm already it. You are already dead. But if you don't feel it and you feel disconnected again, it's only an indication there's something that the mind wants to look at and wants to discover.
Yeah. Thank
In
you.
order to let go, in order to let go, in order to ask, Holy Spirit, Jesus, help me. How can I see that differently? And then again, I need an openness in my mind that allows me that something can come in that is new, that I do not understand, that I might even respond to it with resistance. But eventually, even if there is resistance, I will trust it.
Yeah.
And that will show results.
For sure. Yeah.
But if I go back, if I go back just to where I was and say, yeah, but Jesus, don't you hear what I'm thinking right now? That's how it's supposed to be. That's the truth. Yeah. But all the world attacks me and shows me or how I feel guilty or already awaiting punishment. I mean, that's such an indication, that Jesus gives us. If if I feel only the slightest sense of guilt, and whatever comes out of feelings of guilt, like expecting a punishment, and comes only because I'm uh, I'm reacting to the ego, he says, because I accept that the ego is a reality and I need to react to that. If if I can transform that and just love the ego, let's say, and not do anything with it, then I will not react in a way that it will continue in a feeling of guilt. But those are very important. We see immediately how emotional feelings, how important they are in our transformation, because those are the directives. They direct us, they show us.
Yeah.
Those are the
Absolutely.
signposts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, so it's good. It's very helpful because there's so much ego, and this is what I've been working with, and it will fight and fight and fight for there to be that connection. And it's like the work that it feels towards, and this is just the experience that I've had recently, is it's the ego is like, I don't want to have salvation all of the time, right? Like, why do I need to do salvation all of the time? And that is a reason to the ego, or for the ego to hold on, and it's makes it hard to navigate and to stay in the connection and the recognition of that true communication as we need and want. And it's been throwing me around. I've been
Fine
going,
question.
huh?
What is it in the mind that actually wants salvation for? That has must have a perspective. There is something that needs salvation. What part of the mind wants that?
I don't really understand.
Well, is the part of the mind that wants salvation the God self or the ego
Yeah, no,
self?
right. That's the God self, right? But in turn, the ego
But in
self,
the God self, everything is recognized as God self.
sure. So that's the ego fighting and not
Exactly,
wanting that,
exactly.
right? Yes,
So you
yes,
see, it is first of all already part of, but it's fine. It's because it's a transition idea. It
right,
doesn't leave us in the ego. That's what the miracle of the idea of salvation is. And that's why in the Course in Miracles, he teaches basically all forms that support or convince the mind towards salvation, né? And to play that game of salvation. But he calls it a game of, it's a game that happy children play, né? And the ego will just then comment to that idea that is actually answered by the Holy Spirit. The Holy
right.
Spirit answers that my intention, okay, there is a fear, there is a separation, there is a guilt feeling, and now I want to have that experienced or brought into love, let's say, into pure love. Né? So all my perception is ego involved, how I even think what is wrong with me. And the ego will then comment. And again, the question would be, what is really the difference? If the ego says, well, let's have a little salvation and we only go Sunday to church, or once a year we make uh, a journey to a holy place, right? Or we see a holy man. Yeah. Or the ego says, uh, well, let's have every day and all the time salvation. Or it says, as you said, don't let's have that much salvation game. Yeah. It's still just a commentary. The ego is just commenting on the situation that in truth isn't even there. Yeah. And so
Yeah,
Thank you.
what is needed, that what healing of the mind and correction is we are actually led
Thank you.
to an understanding and a recognition that it wasn't there first of all.
Yeah,
I just
thank
made it
you.
up in my mind.
Yeah.
And that's again, I mean, those are then Jesus' words. No? He says, he speaks about those who relate, and he calls it shadowy figures. Those are shadowy figures with whom I communicate here, which I believe are so real, no? Because I love them so much. No? But you don't love a body, you love the heart and the soul. No? That's what we love, but it's just projected because the mind is not trained well to immediately recognize
Yeah.
that I love the soul of, and which is literally one soul and not the person and the body. And then he says, that they who are dealing with the shadowy figures, they communicate with those who are not there. I communicate with those who are actually in truth not there. I just believe they are there as a person and as a body. And that understanding is very, very important because if I understand that I cannot succeed in the communication to consistent living in that answer if I still believe that my brother or my own self is a body and is a person. I have to recognize myself as the truth in the truth, and that's an extension of that truth. And that's a different seeing, you see? That's where also communication starts. Because that seeing is then a seeing with the mind and not a seeing with the eyes and being translated with meanings of the past. So yes, we do play the game of salvation, but we are playing it with the prescription as he gives it to us. And then he just says, love and forgive, you know, and forgiveness becomes and has to take on a new meaning. It is the meaning that what I thought my brother has done to me has actually not occurred. Oh my God, that's a biggie. That's a big one. Right? And then to remember that, you know, when I would come in and want to answer, okay, how can we now solve or get together again or see that we are good? Né? I have to actually acknowledge that what seemingly triggered us or challenged our relationship or put it at the point of rejection, I have to recognize that with my heart that this hasn't occurred. I was just making it up. I am the one projecting it. Projection makes perception. That's the teaching. Yeah. Projection is the thought. My thought is first of that, keeping it what needs to be real. And then comes my perception of all around it.
Something that when what was it, just the other day, Devavan, when we first did our connection to see if this video Zoom was going to work for us, and you were talking about the smoke screen that the ego would leave and how it would learn to then adapt to that true self and then also try to manipulate what is the true self and trick, right? And then so there's a lot of times where, and this is just happening a lot recently, right? So there's not a lot of, I gotta find, it's very convincing, the ego, very convincing to the point where it's like, oh, you are in your God self. This is your God self. You're connected. And I speak in such that I feel like I am, but then when I'm talking with Erica, sometimes she's like, no, you're not, right? And I'm like, well, it feels like it. I'm trying to recognize that and remember that. But she's like, no, it's not like that, you know? And I'm like, well, what is it, right? There's like then this whole other flood of confusion that comes back. And when I want to find and really hold and recognize that space when I'm able to communicate, right? And so I get lost again, and I'm like, ugh, I feel like I'm walking up the stairs and then I tumble all the way back down, and it's been happening more and more. And so then it's like,
And
what
where do you think you make the mistake? I mean, for me, it's
thinking
obvious.
that, well, I mean, I can just initially without thinking, it's just the fact that I'm thinking about it. That I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm there. I'm doing that. But
Yeah.
I'm not
But
really.
where's then the mistake? I mean, that is the thought, and then comes a point, and
The
that
feeling.
determines if you will come out in pure joy and connection and knowing, or you come out with the doubt again and the self-judgment and the
Yes,
putting yourself down.
right. And so I have been able to come out in that space where I'm like, okay, I get it. I see where the mistake was. The mistake was about the communication, and I am open to that, thankfully, that I'm not shut down. I'm not shutting it down every time it happens, because it happens more than not for me. And being able to get the truth and then to be able to convey that.
Well, okay, it's maybe just one perspective, but I definitely want to bring it in. Yeah. So the first question would be when you say or even bring it in expression that you are what term did you use, in the truth or in the light or in the
The true self.
connection?
Yeah, the connection of the true self.
Yeah.
Right?
What is your experience? Do you
Upset.
experience the oneness, the presence, the love in there, the peace?
No. Now that I like think about it, no.
Okay, see, there it is.
Right.
So that experience would determine the reality of your of of your realization, of your recognition where you are, your own experience, what you're doing, because then you are not settled in that in your own experience. Then you're looking outside yourself and you're looking literally to Erica and want that Erica should reflect you and give you the proof or the evidence where you are at. So you're twice removed actually from
Yeah.
reality. No? Instead of going back and investigating what is my experience and being honest with that, and if it's not there, then okay, I can restore it like this. Give me a second, and I'm connect with God, and the communication is restored, and I know who I am, and I can feel the grace of God. No? So you wouldn't even need Erica for that either, but you can use your brother in that joining, and it will go even faster and be more intense even in the experience itself of the light. Né? But if you're looking for evidence and for any proof or what, you can only say, "Hey, Erica, you are for me. I determine now in my mind, you're the Holy Spirit, and now I listen to you." You can do that, but then Erica is not the person, yeah, but a voice in your mind.
So right, I just to kind of go, it just came to me that it feels like there's a confused trust. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
When I'm trying to be in that space and then communicate, and she's like, no, no, no. But I'm like what you're saying, because I trust a lot in her experience because of her ability that I've seen and that I have experienced. So I trust that very much so. And I I trusted in too much, I guess. Not too much. It's not quantifiable, but
Yeah, in a sense, you're right. In a sense, I was just talking about when
I'm
you're
just
looking
reinforcing,
outside
yeah.
yourself to find
Right.
the answer, that's a too much. You
Yeah.
should actually go inside and first restore the kingdom, find the kingdom within yourself and restore your experience of the kingdom within yourself. That's what you should do. And then you could basically start out anew, and because you would come from that certainty, okay, i I know I can, my experience is now one of presence of God, of love, and then whatever happens in that, it's basically where we find ourselves here too. I cannot say that without my inner looking and awareness of a presence of God, otherwise it couldn't be heard and it would literally attack the truth. Yeah?
Mm.
That's our work we have to do. Né? And once you do that, then you see the the other becomes more the companion and not so much anymore the one I need in order to be shown or guided. Né? And then the other will immediately, because it's one mind, will immediately reflect that. Né? Will immediately reflect your you being true to yourself, your realization of the grace of God. And so it's actually very simple, as you see, no? And that we just need, it's a moment of stop, and in that moment of stop, I remember, okay, I can, that's senseless if I continue putting it out there without being myself in a connection with the truth. Yeah. So, okay, I know this is essential, and this only depends on me. So I first seek the experience within myself, and then I have something to give and to share. That is true. What do you say to that, Erica?
There's something you said a little bit ago that was really it's not exactly jumping off of what Cameron was talking about, but I feel lately so much the feeling that I need and I want my brother. And there was such a strong demonstration of this speed up that you talked about that can happen with the brother, and the clarity that's intensified when I was in a grievance holding the past so strongly. I called you the other day and I was sure of what was the right way. I thought, I'm going to control this situation very much, make it so that it feels manageable and safe to me, and we're going to do it that way. And I called you, I started to leave messages. Something happened in the messages that I've never experienced it this way as I did so strongly a couple days ago. It wasn't in the words, it was like through the words, the Holy Spirit came, and I was, the whole thing was literally lifted out. I started crying and I felt the whole thing release. And now I literally can't find it in my mind anymore. I'm telling you, I can't find it anymore. I thought, oh, it'll come back. It's not there. It's gone. I mean, that's my experience now. Perhaps it returns, but I can't even find that. And it was a new experience of what you were talking about earlier, how we don't do it, it's the miracle. It literally was not of me, but in our joining, through you showing up for me, brother, and standing there, I needed that. And so I've been loving my brother so much, and just wanting to join so much because it really accelerates. You know, I'm just happy.
Yeah. I got replaced. No? That's called replacement. No? That's
Yeah.
what the Holy Spirit does. No? He replaces our little ideas with the entirety. No? And so I think that's very valuable what we were just touching on, because it gives us already the indication that, of course, we do not avoid contact with the world and with the persons and however it presents itself. But I do need to choose how I want to communicate, né? And on what level I want to relate. And everything is included in that. When I choose that, okay, communication starts where I actually feel a coming together or a joining or a connecting with something that literally my body's eyes cannot see. Yeah. I have to learn to look literally beyond the physical appearance, the material uh, um, manifestation of it. And there I find that I can be heard, I extend, I literally also share the healing. There's love there. The same thing, we can look at love. Uh, where can I really then say, well, this is now a moment of love? I only can tell when there's no meaning left, that is impermanent, that comes and goes, which means the appearance needs to go. Yeah, as long as I hold on in my mind, the appearance is real, and I try to share the love with that appearance, I will not be content with that love. And so it is with communication. I will not be content with salvation or communication as long as I project it only on something fleeting, a body appearance, a personality appearance. I have to literally extend it into infinity, into the unlimited, because that's what my mind is. That's what our mind is. And And that always having as a basis, that's kind of the starting point when an extension and the joining happens. Of course, we are here, I am here because of forgetting. Ne? And I will forget and think, okay, I can't do that with the appearance, with the form. But already, even in the process, on the way of coming to a one self experience, at any moment, I can choose anew. And I can choose, okay, my next thought is one beyond my meaning of an Erica, Cameron, or whoever is here in the room. Yeah. And only there, because then I realize, oh my God, I'm talking to myself, I'm extending to myself, I'm giving to myself, I love myself. And that is giving back by God Himself. And of course, He gives it back exactly in that pure sense as what it truly is, and not in a limited sense of a reflection. The limited sense, you know what the last image was? How we realized divine love? That is the appearance and the manifestation of the Master as a reflection within our mind. But he comes in and he immediately says, this is just an example. I just give you a reflection of yourself. And I will go home and greater things will you do than I do. Yeah. And so don't count on me that you would need me in the form forever. Yeah, I will be there, but eventually you will anyway bring it back to yourself and see that's where I am. The master is always within myself, and only there I can find him and have to find him. And as long as I find him in a projected image outside, which is any relationship I have, it's good and I can feel the opening to that love, but it's not yet the end. The end is when we realize it and recognize it within ourselves. That's where the journey goes along. So everyone is then help. We are helping each other and reflect the light of the master for each other, but the journey goes only to our own true self, because that's the only real thing that exists. I am as God created me. That's the sentence. Anything else will come and go, will change, will disappear. That's quite a challenge in our relationships. No? If we go along, I mean, imagine what we were covering now, and we might re-listen to it. And now we're gonna go along and like me as Cami and Erica, and now, okay, we are completely normal human beings. We live naturally as we are, but I start remembering I'm actually not talking to her. I'm talking to myself, and I want that it's coming back as a full-blown realization, as the thought of God itself. No? Okay,
Yeah.
let's go and do something together, and let's make a boat trip, whatever, right? And I'm sitting there in that boat only with myself. Kids all involved, né? Only myself. I'm only there myself. Why I'm not feeling alone?
Yeah.
Ah, because it's the one self that opens up. And anything else will not show consistency and will not bring, uh, let's say, a happiness that has nothing to do with this world, which with every soul yearns for that. And that's all we only want. But if I'm active in that, I will see how that, in the Eastern traditions, and I will talk about that also, do in whenever it presents itself. It was our joining in singing, for example. Yeah? Whatever bhajans, chorals, wherever we were, yeah? Singing, dancing, performing together. Yeah? That's how we actually started to experience uh, that in truth it's then one voice, one body dancing, one one laugh also that is shared. So we were always doing something together and joined literally in a chorus of a frequency that is far greater than what the world or the ego can offer. But where it guides us is only the experience of God within ourselves. Only there it is restored. Well, please add something on. Let's leave it with our last words.
Are we at the end of the time, Devavan?
Yeah, we can do
Yeah.
5-10 minutes more if we want to, but however it feels.
Yeah. No, just when you were sharing, I have started to have experiences where Cam's next to me, but the specialness goes and there's like space and I don't see him the same and feel him the same at all. It's like it's formless almost, but it feels very different. It's like maybe I'm no longer holding him or making him up in my mind what I think he needs to be for me. It's just a very different feeling. And it seemed like whatever you were sharing about how I'm no longer like, there's no longer the dense form that I made, and it's like space. And it's a cool thing, but it's
Mhm.
different. It's
Yeah, you're
just like the space
describing
of
that.
love. It's awesome. It's where there's no more specialness, is what I would say.
Yeah.
It's cool. But then of course the ego will be like, well, but a little hanging on then for a moment, anyways. It
Yeah, and
comes
it can
in
be
more and more.
both. In the expression, it can be a very closeness and the doing things together. But in the mind, it becomes that freeing up, the letting go, liberating. That's liberation, actually. And yet a full bringing it back into one own self. And that is then the recognition, oh my God, this is really just with whom I am together is just myself. Right? So it's also it's a natural part of our going home. Huh? That's what is natural.
So to kind of go off of a little bit of this and same concept, I guess, maybe, but to be able to play in both spaces, right, is something that I I don't even know. I guess this is just a share. I don't know how else to really present this, but to be able to recognize that the spaces are different, but then to also participate with both at the same time is something that I guess I'd just like to hear more of your thoughts and what you can offer to that.
Yeah, maybe we keep that even as a theme. Maybe we continue next time with that because
Right.
there's a lot to say about that.
Of course.
But I would also just give the indication that's also something that has a long tradition. And in the Eastern tradition, the Sanskrit word is lila for that. Lila is the divine play. Yeah. And so the mind needs to learn, and the ego is there involved in that and gets purified in that and humbled. Well, you could say that's the humbled ego that still plays, but plays then divinely. It's then the divine play of, okay, we are going home, and we have a dedication to that awakening, to the homegoing, and we include everything in, yeah, because nothing can anymore be rejected and left out there with a certain meaning of the devil has done that, or that's the devil's work. That doesn't work for us anymore. We have already um, uh, we have opened that box, and there was nothing there. So in that, including everything that comes into the mind, the art is that we develop and also are shown by, it's also, that's literally Master Jesus showing us that art, how to play that, because that's a playfulness uh, that doesn't judge, that doesn't condemn, and that doesn't hold it in a category and makes it the past. It's basically a present playing and letting it go immediately, letting it be new immediately, same moment. And so, yes, the answer to what you indicated as a question is yes, there is a way. And yes, we should go that way and develop that art. Because otherwise I will sit in a corner of my cave and think, well, but I wanted to live that so much and now I can't because it's not spiritual.
Yeah. Yeah. That's,
And then there's still suffering there. And of course, then that consciousness is not liberated. So we have to include it in.
yeah.
But in a way where there is not a timeline being produced anymore. The timeline is, okay, I know now what we are doing, because we have done that just yesterday also, and we're going to plan to do it for tomorrow. That's the timeline. And that's not divine play. That's where
Yeah.
the ego then comes in with its habits from the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we learn, because then it's oh my God, this is so boring. I can't stand it anymore, no? Because it's always the same, no? The same timeline and projections. And the freshness of the moment is yearned for and wanted and is not recognized enough. No? And when we learn that, then we recognize, oh my God, it seems like we're doing the same, but it's completely something different. It's new, it's fresh.
Yeah.
And
Thank
we
you.
immediately feel the joy and the love and the love for joining in that. That's immediately there. Okay, I think we're gonna leave it with that and see where it goes next time. And there
Yeah.
are no comments in the chat, so I think everybody is happy with what we shared. And we can open up the microphones again and just greet each other. And I have another song to share to go from here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you all.
Thorsten, you want to say goodbye? Thank you, my friend. Maren.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I love you.
Thank you both. One.
Thorsten, last. Your microphone. I'm asking you to unmute. Let's do it once again. Here. Now it's open.
Now it's open. Yeah, thank you, Devavan.
Thank you.